What up, though, One Pride? This is the Roar of the Lions UK podcast, the podcast where One Pride goes worldwide. My name is Antony Fitzpatrick. I'm joined this evening by Ashley Soden, and we are here to preview the penultimate game of the Detroit Lions season as the Lions travel to Minneapolis in NFC North action as we take on the Minnesota Vikings. But Ash, maybe under a different set of pretenses than what we thought it might be at the beginning of this season when we were planning out our win-loss records and what might be. We were looking at this game as potentially the one where we might start resting a few guys as we approach the playoff campaign, but as the rule and law in the jungle of the NFL says, not everything like that comes to pass, and instead we find ourselves with our playoff hopes nearly eviscerated. We're hanging on by a thread, and nothing but a win is going to keep that alive.
Yeah, exactly. It's even if you asked us halfway through the season when McCarthy was injured and not looking good, and yeah, you could see a few deficiencies on the team, but we still were churning out some wins, at least in a sort of flip-flop pattern of win-loss, win-loss. And now, yeah, we've gone without hope. They've obviously lost hope long ago, and so they have nothing to lose. We have everything to lose, and so they can play tomorrow with home field advantage, all the pressure off their shoulders, and knowing that, yeah, if they come out with a win, they doom us to the off-season, the mock drafts will start coming out, and all the naysayers will be like, look, I told you so. And that's going to be rough for me and you, because out of everyone on this podcast, me and you are the ones that like to be on Twitter the most and wind people up. So there's going to be a load of people baying fireheads, I think.
Yes, I have been taking a lot of tap on Twitter this week, suggesting that Kelvin Shepherd is not the only guy who should be under pressure after these games. I didn't say his group had not done a good job. I just said, this is not all on Kelvin Shepherd. And yes, the level of reaction on there was crazy. But that seems to have been the big story. We are, of course, only 3 days, not even really 3 days removed from the Pittsburgh Steelers game. We're on a short week, and you know the overarching theme, Ash, is this is the first real existential crisis we've experienced under the Holmes and Campbell regime. Even though it might not be worthy of an existential crisis, this is the first time we've really taken a serious setback, and you can tell because the fan base seems confused, lost, divided, not quite sure what to think, and that seems to be the main thing that's come out of this Pittsburgh game.
Yeah, 100%, because I hate to say with the Rams you can excuse what happened to us because they are just that good of a team, it seems, and we were not as good, but the Rams Lions us, and then this weekend just gone a game that where you go back to start the season and we were looking to go on that Channel 5 thing where you could win a free ticket to holiday to a game if you won the stupid game show thing they do. And I was joking with Matt, oh yeah, let's do it for the Steelers game because we can go see Kirby and Aaron Rodgers' career again. It'd be a nice win. And somehow the Steelers came out, and especially in that second half, outlines the Lions rushing. I know they've got some big rushes from Jalen Warren, the 45-yard touchdowns and such, but yeah, the past couple of weeks it seems the Lions have lost their identity, and yeah, it sucks because the front seven is healthy, so why can't they defend the run? And yes, the offensive line has been a bit banged up, but the one thing that all offensive linemen should be able to do to a decent extent, and they supposedly enjoy doing it, they always want to do it, is run blocking. And yet the run blocking, especially against the Steelers, I know they've got a good defensive line with Harmon, with Cam Hayward, with Keanu Benton, but Jesus, it seems like they couldn't block wet paper towel at points in that game. So going up against the Vikings defensive scheme, which is famous for its blitzes, especially through the A-gap, the double A-gap blitzes that Mike Zimmer came up with that they still employ, having Andrew Van Ginkel, who, while he's on a down year, is still one of the best Sam linebackers in the league, and he can do all the things he can. It might be another rough day, especially if some of the guys that are questionable won't play, and the rumour, and I do want to back Kingsley, but him going up against a particularly blitz-heavy Flores scheme might be a rough second going of him. Like, he had a good game against the Steelers, in my opinion. The PFF didn't agree, and some people didn't agree, but I think he had a good start of it. But our super weapon against them the past couple of years has been Frank, and no offence to Kingsley, I don't think his ceiling is remotely close to what Frank is, so it's going to be a tough game for him if he is the one going it. And now, I mean, to be a tough game for the run game, be a tough game for Goff. Can he get the ball out quick? It has that knock-on effect.
Yeah, 99% of NFL centres do not have Frank's ceiling. It was always going to be impossible there. But I think in terms, going back to the fans, this now seems to be a philosophical debate, doesn't it? Because let's face it, we have invested now in the regime of Holmes and Campbell half a decade. This is, in any other sport, I mean, maybe, American ones, hockey aside and stuff, you are asked to invest large sums of time waiting for a given result, and then when you get to that point and it doesn't quite happen, you see the philosophical debates come about. And with it over here, if you were told in Villa's case it's going to be 5 years till the Knicks did something relevant, that is a long commitment to ask for, to go through 5 years waiting for that to happen. And we're now at the point where 2 years ago it was the NFC Championship game. We're now probably not going to have a playoff win since that, and it's now fans, I guess, are on the we've got to start trying to be a bit more aggressive train. I feel like that is what the debate is going to shift to now. It's we can't do the slow build anymore, and we've got to let it get a little more frisky and aggressive in free agency and building this team.
Yeah, partly that, but there's also another. It's definitely an argument that's tied to it, but another one that has cropped up, especially in the past week or two, has been can we afford to bed in a rookie defensive coordinator when we're in a Super Bowl window? Can we afford to let him develop, or should we go out there and get a veteran guy who knows what he's doing? And everyone points to the Eagles a couple of years ago as the one for this. They reached the Super Bowl, I think it was, and obviously then after that, lose both coordinators. One goes to Indianapolis, one goes to Arizona, I believe it was, and suddenly they have to get new guys in, and they struggle a bit. They don't make the playoffs, so they completely clean house, bringing Kellen Moore as offensive coordinator. After he leaves Dallas, they get Vic Fangio in as their defensive coordinator, and suddenly the backs of the Super Bowl, everything looks hunky-dory, and everyone points to them as the model. And well, yes, that's definitely a success story for it. At the same time, Kelvin, especially at the start of the season, he was having a really damn good year on defense. We can't. I do agree with some of the points that are being made. He hasn't adjusted the scheme as he's lost people. We did better this time last year on less, but Glenn was a more developed coordinator and all this. I'm not for the scrap Kelvin, right, let's go and get someone else in, because at the same time, yes, we're probably going to lose a couple of players on defense. Like Anzalone is obviously the big one in terms of our scheme. We might lose him. We'll probably lose Ami because he's going to get a big contract elsewhere. We'll lose Davenport. We'll lose Reader. But if we bring in a whole new coordinator, look at what the Eagles had to do. They had to change from a 4-3 to a 3-4 scheme, and it's taken them. They had the pieces, and they just did well this year, but last year. But they're still trying to get other pieces in for that new scheme. Look at some of the edges they've had to bring in, like Nola Smith. Good pickup for them. They drafted him a couple of years ago. He fits that scheme perfectly. They go and pay Zach Bourne after getting him. But they're still getting there, and that's why, sort of a side note, I know it's looking at a wider league, but this is really the year they need to win a Super Bowl again, because Hurts is going to get a lot more expensive. Dane Johnson's getting is getting old and can't stay healthy all the time. They're going to have to pay Quinion and DeJourn soon. That's also what happens. Like, I know they've got the track record of adjusting to that. They have their sort of mini rebuilds and they come back, much like the Rams have done. We can do that. I have more than enough faith in Brad, and I know some people won't say like blind faith, just because we haven't seen the full extent of the last two draft classes. What's you're saying? You don't really judge a draft class until 3 years after it's happened, because then you get the full impact. What will happen next year? Like, I know this is the ceiling over everything, and I know I did the article when we drafted them and it was all the ceiling to them. What happens if next year TA comes back healthy and suddenly he looks like the part? What happens if Ennis is fully healthy and he's at least a dependable backup that you can slot in certain places for a game or two if you need him to, and he's just then he can do the scheme? What happens if Mahogany comes back, fully gets over this broken leg that he's got, and he's just perfect at left guard? What happens if Ricky Wingo turns into something? That's someone we haven't really seen this year, and I think we should, but he's in the background. Maybe he'll come out and hit the ground running, kind of like Barnes did a couple of years ago. Hell, Sione Valkyrie, no one, probably his biggest defender in the world in terms of, wow, I know he hasn't done much on offense, but operations and special teams. But with us potentially losing Monty, because that's also swirling around, what happens if Varkey, with 2 years of proper NFL coaching, does take that next step in being a running back? And yes, he will never be Monty, but he can at least come in and take the Craig Reynolds role of, if you need him to take 5-10 carries in the game and do some stuff, he can do that. Just because we're having this little bit of a wobble now, and it is the first real wobble we've had in this regime, doesn't suddenly mean, everything's over, we need to tear it back down. Because I know this is stealing a point from Michael Grind of the Short Lines podcast, but if we keep tearing things down every 2-3 years, like we have done for quite a long time, we're never going to get the proper culture in to really do stuff. It might turn out, it could be we're looking a couple of years and this is a Schwartz situation like 15 years ago, where he's a great coach to take a downtrodden franchise and get it onto the verge of week, but we'll never get there, and that's what Dan is. But that's fine, as long as we build that culture, and then we can go and get that coach, which I know is, again, a big ask because we've never really done that in our history. We go and get that coach that can take him to the promised land. We'll look back and still fondness, and I can say that as you reference with the Villa, and I know, tick off your bingo sheet, really talking about the Villa. That's what we did. Yeah. We had a shitty coach with Steven Gerrard, and now look at us within the space of 3.5 years as Unai Emery, who, let's be honest, looks at the same way that Dan Campbell was when we hired him. He was a meme because of what he did with Arsenal and PSG. We are in the Champions League places. We're in fucking title fight right now, and I know you referenced it earlier. Imagine waiting 5 years to see something doing. I'm 27 and I've never really seen Villa have success except for the time we somehow managed to flunk through to the FA Cup and EFL Cup finals with some lucky draws.
Yeah.
We can do it. You just need. You can't lose the faith, because people will lost faith. Villa started this year when we went 5 games without even scoring a goal, 6 games without a win. And now suddenly you look at the form table of this year and just the Premier League, and we're the third best team, 2 points behind Man City and Arsenal. We're above Liverpool, who won the league last season.
Yeah, exactly. And, this is going to be the thing. You've got to, we can't not bellyache that there needs to be change, but we've got to keep faith in the project. I mean, we look at the end of this year, we are going to achieve, on a bad year, what Jim Caldwell was lauded for achieving while he was here. Yeah. And the organisation was the bad guy when Jim Caldwell got fired. 9 wins was his ceiling. 9 wins is Dan Campbell's floor with this team. So despite the fact that, we're feeling it right now, we are in an infinitely better place than we have been in the past. So I believe they do need to stick with it. I just think the Lions need to change their approach a little bit as we go. But we'll get into all that. I want to shout out everyone who's in the building first. Duncan Stewart says, Merry Christmas 2025, and UK fans. Danny Mack is in. He goes, Merry Christmas shouts. Grandizer is in the building. Hope you are doing well, Grandizer. Good to see you in there. DMAP Zoom says, Evening, guys. Will the Lions have a Christmas miracle? We damn well need one. Attila the Hood is in the chat. He goes, just jumped in. Even if Frank comes back, I want them to draft Yapani Lalulu, Jake Slaughter, or Logan Jones. Yapani Lalulu's going back to college, so you can only have 2 of those guys now, but still 2 good ones on the board there. Attila the Hood, Attila's there. SW Line says, Hi all, Merry Christmas. SW Line goes, happy for Kingsley Aguakun, but the fact is it took the Lions nearly 2 years to give him an opportunity. Makes one wonder about the ability of the coaching staff to assess talent. The dude was a UDFA. Having him start by the end of his second year is pretty good. Giovanni Manu is not even close to starting a game of football, and he was drafted, and he's 2 years in at this point. So I think they've done a fantastic job with Aguakun there. We'll talk about him in a moment, but I think he's going to be the depth centre for years to come. That is your depth you need there. Tilla goes, cancelled my trip to the game tomorrow in the 4th quarter. It's a shame. It is a shame, but hopefully we get back there. If you have any questions or anything you want to ask us as the evening goes on, please do. We shall fit that in. Right, let's get into the Lions-Vikings game at depth. So, Lions road favourites, 7.5 points they are favoured by in this game, but with an over-under of 43.5. So they are not expecting many points but they're expecting the Lions to win. The Lions sport an 8-7 record. Vikings sport a 7-8 record. This has been quite rightfully said. This is the battle for the bottom, potentially. They beat us. We go to the bottom of the NFC North and potentially pick up a nice fourth place schedule next year, i.e. the Chicago Bears with their third easiest strength of schedule this year, gloating that they're a good football team now. But are you surprised that the line been over a touchdown favourite for the Lions, given they're on a 3-game win streak and we've just lost successive games for the first time in 3 years? I know they have injuries we'll talk about in a minute, but we've played backup quarterbacks for many years in Minnesota now, and we always struggle when we go there against them.
Yeah, well, obviously the most famous Lions versus backup QB one was in division. It wasn't the Vikings. Of course, I'm talking about the infamous Green Bay game. That's all I will say. I am surprised it is that high, even with all the injuries, just because of how shit we've been, especially on defense, to be honest, especially against the run. So if anything, I would have expected this to be 4-point favourites, but the over-under to be higher, because that's the one thing you can maybe say to our betterment in a way, is that, while yes, our defence could not stop a cold at this point, the offence, while it has spluttered, of course, in the third quarters, it still can put up points. So I would have expected the over-under to be slightly higher, because, yeah, I would not be surprised if this time tomorrow I'm sitting here watching the game and it's just a shootout. I would not be surprised at all, just because we might not be able to run the ball, but Jared Goff is doing his Beth Matthews Stafford impression, slinging the ball around, and Brosmer, well, I know he didn't look good in his one start he's had, but me and you both really liked him in this draft class just gone out of Minnesota. We know he can deliver the ball, and if they get a bit of a run game, I know Mason's out, as we'll come on to in a minute, but Aaron Jones has always been good against us somehow. The other backups they got, I know they have another Ty Chandler, isn't it, the former UNC running back, who I think he's played us a couple of times, and there was one game he had 100 yards on us. Yeah. So it's not like, we're coming up against a completely battered Bruce team that can still hurt us. And of course, they've got the best wide receiver in the fucking league, and yeah, they could not get him the ball over the past 2 months, but he seemingly loves playing against us. He's got them. What is this? He's got that weird stat where, if you just look at his stats against us, he has like the best record in terms of a player against any other team. Like, he always goes off against us, unless Amik Robertson's covering him. But that's prime Amik Robertson last year, not giving up the most yards over the past 6 weeks. Amik Robertson, so.
But I think on the flip side, Amon-Ra kind of has something similar on them as well.
Yeah,
so we both possess a receiver that the other team absolutely despises. But in terms of the high-level take of this game, I think going into it, with how the Lions fan base is reacting to what's going on here, I think there's only one acceptable type of result that we'll be looking for this. It feels like a narrow, scrappy win is not going to be enough. It feels like an even average win against a backup QB and a banged up offense, which we'll talk about in a moment, is not going to be enough. This feels like you've lost 2 in a row. You have got to go out there and absolutely banjax these guys into tomorrow and take every single frustration you've got out on them. I think, for me, that feels like the only acceptable result we can get from this. If we win 19-17 and they miss a field goal or something, it will feel like that's not really achieved anything or told us anything.
Yeah, it'll be like the Giants result all over again, where that just papered over the cracks. Like, we need to come out, especially with, as I referenced earlier, the way that we played against this Vikings defense early in the season, the way we and compared to the way we played them before, like it was this time last year, and we both said it, but especially you in a way, we were the kryptonite of the Flores scheme. We knew how to beat it because of Goff. This season, it's not there. We need to show we can get back to that, because otherwise, it's kind of like what's happened in the past couple of weeks of us playing the big person and not being able to cover that, and that kind of exploiting a flaw in our defensive scheme. People will see what the Vikings do to us and be like, right, that's what we've got to do next season. And even if we do have an upgrade at centre, be it with Slade Ratledge there, which I know is becoming more and more of a topic, I'd rather keep him at right guard where he's good. But even if we do have a slightly younger centre who's able to do stuff, they'll probably still be new to it. They'll be raw, and teams will just do what the Vikings do against us, which I know they have a unique scheme and the way they're banking plays in it, blah, blah, blah. But, yeah, we need to come out Ban Jackson, not only just to dispel the untimely demise of how to beat the Lions, but also we just need that bounce back. We cannot go into the off-season on a back of a 4-game slide, because I very heavily suspect, even if it is that close win against them, the Bears will be fired up on the last day of the season, because even if we win and the backers lose, which looks likely at this point, the Bears, us going there knowing that they can knock us out the playoffs, that Ben can get his revenge on us, that DeAndre Swift, who's suddenly remembered how to be a running back, get his revenge on us, all these little narratives. It's kind of like us a couple of years ago when we went to Minnesota to win the division for the first time, where we played Minnesota last year in week 18 to decide the division and number 1 seed. Suddenly the narratives will all be in Chicago's favour, and they'll want that. They want to put the pounding down on us because of the way we've beaten upon them the past couple of years.
Yeah, we need to go out of this season, if we are going to go out of this season, with one big punch saying you've got us this time, but we will be back. Attila the Hun has a great one here. He goes, the great coordinators of NFL's past will visit our coaches tonight and scare them to coach correctly. I could just imagine Kelvin Shepherd in bed later, and the ghost, well, it's not a ghost because he's alive, but the vision of Dom Capers appears over him going, ooh, this is what you could be if you don't. We should do that. That could be our fun question for the end. Think of the ghosts of Christmas past, present and future for our coordinators who want to visit them this evening. That could be our fun question for the end.
I'll work on that.
I love that,
like
Attila the Hun. Gritty Gringo goes, Merry Christmas from Phoenix, Arizona. Yeah, I should have mentioned it's Christmas Eve. It is 24 minutes away from being Christmas Day here. This is going to be a Christmas Day fixture. Merry Christmas to you all. We hope you have a fantastic time. We love all of you for hanging out with us. And hopefully you have the best time. So, as I mentioned, we are coming up on a Minnesota team that is 7-8. It bounced between wins and losses, kind of like the Lions have been doing first 6 weeks of the season. Wins over the Bears, Bengals and at Cleveland, but losses to the Falcons, Steelers and Eagles, and then followed a run of just 1 win in 6 games. They lost away to the Chargers, then they won at Ford Field in Detroit. Yes, we have played them already, but then a 4-game skid at home to the Ravens and Bears, and on the road to the Packers and Seahawks. But they have picked up recently, going from 4-8. They have reeled off successive wins against the Washington Commanders, whom they shut out, and 2 road wins against the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Giants. As mentioned, we have played each other once already, the Vikings winning 27-24. I remember that absolutely stuffed our run game. 3.3 yards per carry the Lions had on the day, and JJ McCarthy played probably the only decent game of football in the NFL he is ever going to play, even though he was bang average in the case. But we have come up against these guys once and we have fallen short once. We need vengeance. The injury reports we can talk about are out before we go into the depth charts and the rule and the game themes, etc. But there are 2 fairly big injury reports this week. They have more guys out, but we have more guys on ours. In terms of the Vikings injury report, tight end room is absolutely decimated. Gavin Bartholomew and TJ Hawkinson, former Lion, are both out. Bartholomew has a back injury, Hawkinson a shoulder injury. Quarterback JJ McCarthy is out because he is built like sand and just completely falls apart every time you try and grab him. He's got a hand injury, so he will not be playing. Jordan Mason, the running back, is out. The center, Ryan Kelly, is out. Tackle Brian O'Neill is questionable with a heel injury. He's been playing limited participation in practice. Aaron Jones, running back, he was they're off the injury report, but he's had an ankle injury. Javon Hargrave, no designation with a thigh injury. Ty Chandler, no designation with a knee injury. And Eric Wilson, the linebacker, no designation with a thumb injury. We'll go through the depth chart in a minute, Ash, but immediately what springs to mind is their offense has been hit very hard by this. A lot of the skilled players are out. There are some noticeable absences or banged up guys on the line. we're going to be coming up against an offense which has been through the ringer recently. It put up 16 points on the Giants, and obviously not good for them on a short week coming into this.
Yeah, 100%. Like, missing Hawk is going to be a big one for them, just because he's got that revenge factor on him and all that. Though, I guess he'll be happy at the same time that he's out and Kirby's out, because then we won't have any more shit going on between our fans. But just, yeah, they've beaten to fuck. Like, losing Darasaur, they've got Ryan Kelly out with his multiple concussions. JJ, well, 9, as we should call him being out, meaning we're facing Brosma, backed up by Goff's old friend John Walford, who took over for a game for him before having to come back in, and then Brett Ripien, the eternal Viking, it seems. He always seems to pop up with them once a year. And then having Jordan Mason, again, good friend of Jameer Gibbs, people remember rightly, because he and Gibbs were teammates at Georgia Tech, and they have like the Hammond Lightning coach that we've got now, but in college. Him being out's a big miss for them, because you look at the other two guys that got behind him, Tri Chandler and Xavier Scott, are more your sort of speedy, fast guys, so they're missing that power element. But at the same time, they've still got a damn good right tackle in Brian O'Neill. Still got the best receiver in the league. They've still got the what used to be the fastest driving receiver in the league before Brandon Ayuk decided to take that mantle a couple of weeks ago. And Jaden Naylor's a damn good slot receiver, underrated slot receiver in my opinion. They've still got some weapons to use. It's just, can the quarterback get them the ball in time when that left side of the line is pretty vulnerable? Like, I like Donovan Jackson in the draft, but he hasn't been exactly great this season. Just in school, well, he's not sleeping tonight. He's getting visited by the ghost of Christmas past, because people might remember he was the right tackle for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last year when they had a few injuries. So he's facing his old buddy Aiden Hutchinson again. Woohoo! And then, as we said, Ryan Kelly's out, so they've got Michael Jurgens starting there, who's a 7th rounder from not this draft class, gone the draft class before. He's got a couple of snaps under his belt, quite literally. But we can hopefully attack that left side of the line. But if we have this slow fucking pressure that was constantly happening, and I'm going to say it because I know both me and you hate it, and we've called it out every single time it happens, if we keep playing Galeem at fucking edge rather than at the free tech, they're going to have the time. Brosma's going to have the time to deliver the ball to Jefferson and Addison, and they're going to put 3 yards against us.
Oh, don't. That's giving me ticks there. But yeah, the Vikings injury report is long. Their injured reserve is quite long as well. Jeff Okudah, former Lions corner, is on there. Carson Wentz at quarterback is on there. Rondale Moore, the wide receiver, is on. Zeke Correll, undefeated against Florida State in college football because he played for NC State, is on there. Token, I had to get it in there, Ash, sorry, but there we go. Matt Nelson, former Lion. A lot of former Lions on this team. Jonathan Greenard, the outside linebacker. Josh Metellus at safety, and as Ash mentioned, Christian Darasaur at tackle. So quite banged up. In terms of the Lions injury report for this one, not as many out, but a lot questionable. Avonte Maddox and Giovanni Manu both ruled out of this. Avonte with a back/illness designation and Manu with a knee. But the questionable list is long. Tristan Cole on guard, Marcus Davenport sick note, Taylor Decker tackle, Khalil Dorsey corner, Tom Kennedy wide receiver, Christian Mahogany guard, Aleem McNeil defensive tackle, David Montgomery running back, Al-Qadim Mohammed edge, Amit Robertson corner, and Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's had a knee injury, all questionable for this game. Obviously, again, before we go through our depth chart, and obviously Maddox been out is not ideal. There is no Kirby Joseph, there is no Brian Branch, and now there is no Avonte Maddox. We are slowly but surely running out of people to play at the safety position. But I mean, for us, Ash, this is really going to be up in the air, because right now there are just 2 guys out, but we could have a whole plethora of guys out come game time, and our game could be vastly altered by if some of these guys play, if some of these guys don't. It's that long. I don't know what to think at this point. It's an end-of-season injury list which rivals Bonnie Blue's sexual partner log, as you've so easily put in there.
Yeah. Well, to make it slightly easier for you, obviously Manu being out, he's still in the IR, so that's one less out we have to deal with. I'm going to be honest, I don't think he's going to get activated. They're just doing it to get some practice reps at this point. kind of half shows that the coaching staff's given up on the season, because if we didn't do that, we could bring back Cunningham right now, and he could at least contribute as a linebacker, hopefully stop that run defense, help that run defense, because we kind of need it. And he did what he did against the Ravens. We need more of that, and then means we could easily as soon as this game's over. As soon as this game's over, we can start Brock Wright's clock and hopefully get him up and ready for next Sunday, so we actually have a viable tight end. No offense to fucks as Ilster and Ricci. But yeah, just the amount of guys who got out. Maddox is going to be a big miss. Like, him filling in for this Branch role, while he's not Branch, he's been pretty good at it. Like, I'd honestly, him and I know I've said about Harper as well. If we re-sign Harper and Maddox and we have them to Branch, we work his way back to Achilles and then hopefully Kirby back, that's not a bad foursome in the backfield. Keeping up with the Bonnie Blue theme. And Meek, I know he's got the injury of his hand. He'll probably play him. He'll want to play because him and Justin Jefferson have that informal rivalry that branches all the way back to college. Dorsey, I know we haven't seen much of him on defense, but he's going to be a big miss if we do miss him because he's our starting gunner. And you think the special teams has been bad. Imagine what it's going to be like without one of the best gunners in the league. Davenport, well, that's no surprise. Probably won't play with his shoulder injury because he's a pussy. Liam McNeil, hopefully will play. We need him. Same with AQ. Please, can we just give AQ more snaps? We're probably going to price him out of a contract at the end of this year, but hopefully it'll be enough to get us a comp pick next season and he gets somewhere nice because he deserves it and he's pretty good. Colon, just fuck him off anyway. Mahogany, please come back. Same with Decker. Sad. Who would have thought this? I will clip this later, probably. Please, can Tom Kennedy play? Who would have thought I would say that? But he's been a revelation at kick returner. We need Amara. He says he's hopeful to play anyway on Twitter. And then David Montgomery. They will try and use that excuse, won't they? Like we were discussing it off air before. It really seemed like the regime's doing something with Monty here, and they'll probably use this excuse. Oh, he's not well enough to play. We're going to give Sailors and Varky more of the snaps. It's not it. I hope he does play, but at the same time, that little conspiracy part of my brain's starting to tick now with some of the things that's happening. I'm like, they might say, "Oh, he's injured, he can't play," but in reality, they're using it as an excuse.
Yeah. Gavin's Concon says Harper is trash. This entire secondary is so bad. I would say Harper, for where he's been, I think has done pretty good. He got the forced fumble the other day. I think he's playing a lot more football than he should be, and he's having some moments where he's getting burned, but respectfully I would push back a little bit on and say he's been alright, but he's not Kirby or Branch. Exactly,
he's not Kirby or Branch. He's in the Kirby role, but you look at the games he's had, okay, his worst game was against Green Bay on Thanksgiving. Every other game, and I know PFF grades are not the be-all and end-all, but considering how bad they are usually grading off things, the fact that every other game he's had has been at least around PFF average of 60.0, and actually only one of those games I've just mentioned is below that, and that was against Minnesota earlier season. Every other game he's been above PFF's average. As a backup safety, that's what you want. And okay, PFF grades aren't everything. Let's have a look. In this season, 31 tackles, solo tackles, 6 assisted tackles, 4 missed. That's a 9.8 miss percentage, which isn't too bad, and at the same, but is also heavily weighed down by the fact he did miss a third of his tackle attempts in that aforementioned Green Bay game. In coverage, which is probably what you want from a free safety, 50% completion rate, 16.8 yards per reception given up. That comes from the territory of where he plays. For only 4 yards after carry is allowed. So from where if he gets targeted and he allows the catch, there's no yak behind it. He's also broken up as many passes. He's given up touchdowns, with 2 touchdowns given up, 2 PBUs, and an interception. He's got, for a backup safety, especially since we have not had anyone who can play the Kirby role behind Kirby. Since we've got Kirby, like we had Tracy Walker when we first got Kirby, but he's more of the strong safety, hard hitting type. We have needed the kind of player that Harper is. So while yes, he has not been a revelation, he's not come out and suddenly been great at that single high. he's been good enough for what he is.
I think anybody replacing a pair of all-pro caliber safeties is going to look inadequate when all this said and done. Even Maddox has had his issues, but I feel like the corners bear a bit more brunt to blame on that. But we respect all opinions there. Ray Clarkson saying, greetings from Michigan. Hope you are doing well. Thank you for dropping by. Happy Christmas to you. I was going to say, so the Minnesota offense that we are coming up against, their depth chart reads as such. At quarterback, it is going to be Max Brosma, the former Golden Gophers quarterback this week at Minnesota. Stalwart coming up against us. His running back is going to be Aaron Jones. We know and hate him very much, backed up by Ty Chandler and Xavier Scott. The receiver core, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and Jalen Naylor, who also seems to very much like playing against us. They're backed up by Ty Felton and Miles Price. Then the offensive line, Justin School's going to be your left tackle. Donovan Jackson's going to be your left guard. Michael Juergens is going to come back up at centre. Will Fries at right guard. And Brian O'Neill, providing he shakes off that questionable designation, will be playing at right tackle. And they do sport a fullback. We all love fullbacks. That is CJ Ham. And the important things to know with this offense in terms of the balance of this offense, Minnesota's run game this year, 1,546 yards. 4.4 yards per carry with 12 rushing touchdowns scored and 16 fumbles in the receiving game. 2,918 receiving yards and 18 receiving touchdowns altogether. Justin Jefferson is approaching 1,000, probably going to get it when he's playing against us, but about a 2-to-1 ratio of pass to run. But noticeable stat from this offense, Ash, this Vikings team is the second worst in the league when it comes to turnover differential and giveaways on the offense. 29, the most in the NFL by 3, and not many other teams are within 5 of them. I mean, we know what it's all about. It's got superstar receivers who can work with even the most basic average of quarterbacks. A running back who we absolutely hate back to his time with Green Bay. It's fairly balanced. It's not too one-sided there, but there are flaws with this team. Your offensive line, Justin School at left tackle, he has given up quadruple the amount of sacks that Christian Darrisaw has, and he has played, I believe, about 70 less snaps than Darrisaw has this year. At your left guard, Donovan Jackson, he's given up 24 pressures on the year, only grading out at about 60 so far. Ryan Kelly will not be playing. He is one of the great offensive linemen. He's grading at 82 this year. But Michael Juergens, he's played less than 200 snaps so far. He's given up 4 sacks on 111 pass blocking reps. At right guard, Will Fries has not really gone up to the level of his contract when they got him from the Colts. He's given up 34 pressures on the year, been penalised 3 times as well. But then you do have the lone spark on there, Brian O'Neill. He's given up just 2 sacks on the year, no quarterback hits. He's grading about 82, but has been penalised 6 times as well. These guys do throw flags, but noticeable, they love to turn the ball over, and that is something we absolutely have to look to exploit here, because we know they're going to get yards on us on the air. But in terms of an offense we're going up against, it's fairly balanced. It's got good playmakers, but there are big weaknesses here for us to have a go at.
Yeah, 100%. Like, as I mentioned earlier, that left side of the line is pretty susceptible, because as you say, Justin School's currently playing left tackle for them. You're quite right. He's played 35 less pass blocking snap. Well, actually, no, a bit less than that. He's played 27 less pass blocking snaps than Christian Darrisaw has, and in that time, he has given up 7 more pressures. So, even breaking them down, they've given up the same amount of QB hits with 4, but School's given up 2 more QB hurries, 14-12, and 5 more sacks. And as I mentioned earlier, he is the right tackle of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last year. So, you know, him and Aiden Hutchinson have got some 4.5 sack history between them in one game. So, please, can we return to that? But even then, rookie left guard, hopefully we can stick Aleem over him, have some game wrecking there. Centre back, obviously they don't have Kelly, so again, backup centre, he could be susceptible. But then the rest of the right hand side of the line with Freeze and with O'Neill, that might be a bit an issue to break through. It might be a time where we start doing some of those stunts and that go away from them. You just have one guy occupying the both of them, and then you just have everyone else looping onto the left hand side of the line. But it doesn't matter if we have that slow pressure. If we give Brosma enough time in the pocket, he'll pick apart the secondary with those receivers, as you say. Even if they're missing TJ, they'll still find ways. Even if it is they just have Addison and Jefferson running two routes, and have everyone else in max protected. The kind of receivers they are, they'll get open eventually, and he'll be able to find them with the ball. So it very much is: can we exploit the weakness on the offensive line? Can we maybe exploit the tight ends and running backs in pass coverage, in pass blocking? Because we give Jefferson and Addison enough time, they're going to get open against our scheme. Be it if we continue playing 80% zone or we play a bit more man, we have to get to Brosma and stop it, because we don't stop him, they'll just do what Aaron Rodgers did to us last week, Stafford's done to us before, what Jameis Winston did to us in the first half against when we played the Giants. There's a game plan on us now. You give the QB time, you take those slow pressure times, and you just find your receivers, because they'll get open.
Absolutely, they will. In terms of defense for the Vikings, their depth chart, their front four: Jonathan Allen. Jonathan Allen, Javon Hargrave, Jalen Redmond, and Dallas Turner highlight the front four there in your linebacker core. You got Eric Wilson, Blake Cashman, Andrew Van Ginkel, and then in your secondary, Isaiah Rodgers and Byron Murphy are your corners. Harrison Smith, who we know very well, and Theo Jackson at safety. But for the most part, this is the unit which is a lot more intact, and we know exactly what it's going to be under Brian Flores. It's one of the most blitz-heavy schemes you will come up against, and we saw exactly what they did into us in the first game. They minimised our field, had us throwing a lot of stuff in and around the line of scrimmage, and they just eat off that sort of stuff. In terms of the stats of these guys, don't have an out-and-out sack leader on this team, but what they do is they spread the love around. They got 4 guys who lead the team with 6 sacks: Dallas Turner, Jalen Redmond, Eric Wilson, Andrew Van Ginkel, and then you got Jonathan Greenard, Jonathan Allen, and Javon Hargrave, all who have 4. So it is a front 7. When you're in a blitz-heavy system, it's not always the linemen who get there. The fact you've got 2 linebackers high up that list also shows they're going to get these guys blitzing through, causing a lot of problems there. In terms of the guys in the secondary, this is a team that does not get a lot of turnovers. 15 on the year, ranks bottom 10 in the league. So, not a lot of ball hooks back there. The top guys in terms of interceptions is Josh Metellus. He's got 2 on the year. For pass breakups, it's Byron Murphy, who's got 4. But these guys they're giving up a lot this year. Byron Murphy is giving up 70% on his receptions this year. Metellus is giving up 68. Isaiah Rodgers is giving up 65. Harrison Smith is giving up 74. And then the guys they've got coming off the edge are not doing well either. Andrew Van Ginkel gives up 75%, and they do drop him into coverage a fair bit as well. So, again, it almost does feel a little bit like the Vikings teams of the past. Like, you're going to have a very funky, frisky front 7, and they all contribute, so it's not like you've got one guy you can target and you keep quiet and you're going to win. You've got to keep the whole front 7 quiet overall, but again, vulnerabilities in the secondary, which we've always had success with. Amon-Ra St. Brown has always feasted on these guys. We've always put up a good amount of points on this team. Ben put up 30 on them pretty much every single time he played them. We know exactly what this defense is now. We've played it enough times, but we've got to beat it this time. Actually, we didn't do it last time. We were too negative. We didn't run the ball very well. 3.3 yards per carry. We've got to do something different this time.
Yeah, definitely. And as you say, it does just come down to our offensive line versus that blitz scheme, because that's what kind of got us last time. And one good thing that helps us there is that they've lost their best edge rusher, Jonathan Grenard. He's on the IR, which meant they've had to turn to Dallas Turner at the edge position as that sort of the sort of on the line edge rusher, because they play obviously 3-4, so it's very concentrated in the middle with their defensive linemen. Then they can do the weird stuff with Turn and Van Ginkel, Tyler Batty, who got his UDFA out of BYU, who I know you really adored, Chaz Chambliss, who they've got, who, if I'm not mistaken, you can obviously correct me here, isn't he related to the old Miss QB?
I think he's his older brother. Yeah.
There we go. Right. So there's stuff there. And then they got in the middle, like Cashman, who, again, I really loved in free agency last year, along with Van Ginkel. He's really good at their linebacker spot, but the other spot that they usually had Ivan Pace Jr. in, who, again, someone really liked out Cincinnati for his blitzing ability, because that's took a step back and the other stuff that he's got hasn't really caught up, and he's become a liability for them. They've had to turn to the veteran from Green Bay and Eric Wilson. It's Eric Wilson who we've got to target. He is the weakness on that front seven, in my opinion. If we see him on the field, he's an okay run defender, below average in coverage. So that is the guy who I'm especially targeting if we are insisting on the overload Gibbs touches, corner routes, all that stuff that we do with Gibbs. Wilson's the one we want to get on him. Their front three of Allen, Hargrave and Redmond, especially Redmond, he's overperforming for where he was as a player for them, where they got him. But Hargrave and Allen had good games against us last time, and they're still backed up by Levi Drake Rodriguez, who I loved as Project X last season, and infamously it was them drafting Kim that made me drop pizza all down my lovely Goff jersey that then got ruined when I washed it wrong. They've got guys on that front seven, as you say, who can just rotate in and keep fresh, because they're doing a lot of stuff. They will do stuff where they bring one of the inside linebackers on a blitz, and so they drop one of their defensive linemen into coverage, stuff that we hate doing because it doesn't work for us, but for them, because they used to do it practicing week in, week out, it works for them. Sometimes it does create turnovers for them. And then in the back front, because they've lost Josh Metellus, who is their branch, he's the infamous guy that's played at least one snap in every viable alignment on PFF. So he played snaps at nose, all the way from nose tackle to single high safety. They've lost him, and so it's made their back end coverage a bit more vanilla. They can't really do some of the stuff they did with him in terms of disguising coverages and that. And it has opened up weaknesses, because losing Kim's meant they've had to slide Byron Murphy from the inside to the outside. They've basically had to make Robertson him. And it's meant he's had a step back from where he was last year, and he had got himself that big contract. Isaiah Rodgers has crashed down to earth after his good couple of weeks around their games over here in Ireland and in London. He's come back down to earth to where he was when he was with the Colts. Harrison Smith, seeing the age come to him, as you're saying, giving up a load of receptions, but he can still run defend like nobody's business. And Phil Jackson's done a decent job stepping in for Metellus on the back end, but he's not the same. So it is very much, if we can block that front seven, that blitz scheme, and just get Goff an extra half a second, we can tear that secondary, and we can hopefully run the ball as well, which means I'm stealing it from you before you can say it. This is a week where we need to play Dan Skipper more. One snap ain't going to cut it. We need to increase that at least by about 25,000. Give him at least 20, 25 snaps, because otherwise they're just going to come all over us like we're Bonnie Blue.
Yeah, exactly. And you're right, the last game showed a big weakness in this team. They had 5 sacks, 11 quarterback hits, and 10 tackles for a loss. We did not protect Jared Goff in the last game, and 11 tackles for loss. That's why we were running 3.3 yards per game. So many negative plays, and that's been a theme of our offense a lot this year. And what our defense has not been able to do is get these tackles for loss and get run games under control. So we have to look to change that this time. In terms of rounding out their roster, you cannot forget about special teams. The punter is Ryan Wright, who's having a season and a half. His net puntage is 45 just about this year. He's grading pretty high. Will Rijkaard is your kicker. He's 28 of 28 on extra points. He's 27 of 29 on field goals this year. He's just missed a couple from 50 plus, but he has nailed 90 from more than 50 this year. And of course, Matt, if you're listening, he's probably not, because he's still in bed, your long snapper for the day, Andrew De Paula. which rounds up this team and will move us on now into the game themes that we're going to need to see here. And we've touched on a few of them already, but instantly the first thing that we need to look at, as we've mentioned a bit briefly, is we've got to protect our backfield better. And in recent years against the Vikings, I feel like we've been we've been one of the better teams against their blitz in recent years. We've always seemed to navigate it well. Ben started injecting a lot of motion into the plays, a bit of trickeration to get them off piste. But obviously this was early in the season when Jackass was still calling plays. As you said, I think it feels like a case of we've got to start looking at the jumbo package more. We've got to have Skip more blockers, more ability to get hit, because they will take our run game apart if we try and do it the way we've been doing in recent times. And these guys are athletic, they're fit. Even a guy like Jameer Gibbs, he struggles to get away from them because they will hunt you down.
Yeah, exactly. Like, just even if it is just bringing Skip in and having that extra blocker, it will help, because as I kept saying time in time out again about the Pittsburgh game especially, just having an extra blocker means you won't hopefully have to ask your guys to do stupid shit like pull across the line to block the backside edge rusher. Instead, they can focus on, blocking the eye guy and climb to the second level, because that's something that definitely hurt us. And you can tell it hurt us because the guy that was culpable for a couple of those was Mahogany, and the fact is now on the injury report with that leg injury, because obviously they've even listed it as fibula, which is what he broke, means that he wasn't 100%. So hopefully it'll just ease the load there, but it also it can lead to a couple of trickeration stuff. We have been doing what we've done in past seasons where we have had Skip line up on the edge running routes before. Might be the time to do that. I know obviously a couple of years ago was the infamous Penne play where we got him in and chucked him a pass. It opens that kind of worms, and it will just ease the load on the tight ends, because I don't want to brag on them, but you look at the guys we've got up: Ferkser, pass first tight end; Zane Silstra, someone who is definitely pass first because he's a former college receiver who we've converted to a tight end. Does great stuff on special teams, can catch the ball. Run blocking, he tries his damn hardest, but it's like me trying to pass to try and run block in the league. It ain't going to work. And then Giovanni Ricci, wow, God knows what we've got in him, but from what we've seen from him so far, he is not a blocker at all. So just having someone, even if it is Skip, just playing as that inline tight end and as an extra blocker, it will ease the load on them, so they can just go and do what they're actually good at. And it means we've got a dependable blocker, because it has been the issue time and time again that we've left someone on blocks. They've come in and it causes TFLs. And to build off it, I know you said about Gibbs, and maybe it's going to our next thing, but have Monty play more. I know it is a big point of contention right now in sort of the fan base, especially on Twitter. But the thing is, especially with Gibbs against this run scheme, is he will see a blitz coming and he'll try and bounce it outside. And yes, it might turn into a big touchdown, but it's also just as likely to turn into a TFL. The thing with Monty is he'll see that and he'll go, right, okay, I'm going to load the shoulder, and he'll get you 2 and 3 yards, which, yes, might not be a successful play in terms of success rate, which is one of my favourite stats to use, but, but at least he'll get you some positive yardage, because that's one of the things that you say doomed us against them last time. So what's doomed us a lot in this season is we'll get a negative play on first and second down, it'll put us behind the sticks, and then suddenly we're doing a 3rd and long, and there was that big run during the season where we had not converted a 3rd and 7 or longer. Making sure we're not in those situations, playing Monty and just having him run through those blitz schemes, because sometimes you break one arm tackle with the blitz. If you get through the arm tackle of the blitzer, well, they've just left a hole in the secondary that you can run into, and you can turn what would have been a 1 yard loss into a 5, 6, 7 yard gain, and suddenly we're in front of the sticks. You can keep your play sheet open, and it'll make things a lot easier on offense. But yeah, it really does come down to, can we stop that blitz scheme, or if we can't, can we use it against them, use their aggressiveness against them to pick apart holes in the secondary that they're leaving by bringing extra guys.
Yeah, and I think the other one is you've got to take your shots downfield, and you've got to try and stretch this defense a little bit more, to get them to back off a little bit. In the previous game, we had 24 pass attempts within the 10-yard line, not even getting to the sticks. We took 3 shots downfield. 2 were completed, and we got 2 touchdowns. What does that say? I remember that game very clearly. When we took shots downfield on them, good things happened, and we were told we couldn't hold up in pass protection enough, but we found a way to do that, having Skip in there, and we've shown we can work with two guys running routes. Tesla and JMO do it very well. Amon-Ra does it very well. We've got to not look to be so negative when it comes to throwing the ball as well, because good things happened when we did, and then we just went back into our shell and did the same old stuff again. First down, shots down the field, for me, feels like it's got to be a big part of our game plan here.
Yeah, 100%, especially since the guy who is very likely to catch those shots, in JMO, he's arguably having his best season. Like, he's already pretty much matched last season's stats, and he's still got 2 games to go. Like, you've just paid the guy. Use him. Even if it is, sometimes you take that shot to him early, and then later in the game you still have him running those routes, and if Goff's happy with it, you take it. But the fact you've done it early means they have to respect it. Their coverage backs up, and then the stuff that you usually want to do, the intermediate digs. There was the great one against the Steelers that's going around on Twitter today, but the stuff that's been the bread and butter of our offense, it becomes open, because the second you get conservatives, as you're saying, they start creeping forward, and suddenly those 10-yard digs that we love to do to Amon-Ra, well, there's going to be linebackers and safeties there. What the fuck are you supposed to do? Then you go outside and they start... as you quite rightly point out, we need to take those shots, because, yeah, even if you don't connect on the rate we did last time, it just keeps their defense honest, it keeps their safeties back, and it just makes it slightly easier to run the stuff that you want to, the inside zones, the intermediate digs, the slants, the hitches, all the stuff that is the bread and butter of our offense. It just becomes open, because the second they see you're not going downfield, they're just going to sit on them, and suddenly, it's a load of screens again to Gibbs that they'll just crash down onto. We'll be 3 and out. We're punting the ball, and it's another one of them where Jack Fox is having to use his leg for once instead of sitting on the sideline playing Mario Kart.
Yeah, absolutely. It feels to me like we've learnt the blueprint we need to beat these this year, and we have the ability to do so, but it's going to be completely critical to us. If we go in our shell again, then we're done for. You've got to target JMO early.
Yeah.
Like you say, we've got to get the heavy set packages in and start dominating them, because they're a team that can be run on. In terms of defense, obviously, Kelvin is under a spotlight right now, and rightly so. As people keep saying, over the last 4 or 5 games, with probably the worst defense in the NFL currently in terms of the points we're giving up, the yards we're giving up. It's not been pretty. At the start of the season, that was not the case, and people have forgotten about that. But, we are coming up again against a unit that is going to be in trouble in Minnesota's offense. They're missing their star center. That pair of guards, this is not the best offensive line you are going to come up against in the world. And you're coming up against a rookie in Max Brosma, and the immediate thing here is put the game on him. Make him beat you, and the way you do that is by our shiny run defense, which has been taken apart in recent games. We've got to find a way to get that going again, but I feel like Minnesota they're your traditional ground and pound. They don't throw a lot of funky stuff your way, even though Kevin O'Connell is a West Coast disciple, but we've got to start by fixing the run game. I don't know if there's anything you would do different. I know we've had we're playing zone more against certain teams, we're playing man. I don't know, what would you change against it? Because if we stop Aaron Jones, because he ran at like 7.8 yards per carry on us in the last one, it feels like good things happen if we do that.
Unfortunately, and I hate saying it because it does go against our identity, run defense is 90% effort, and especially from the defensive line, and it hasn't been there the past couple of weeks. Like, Hutch has been great in the pass rush, but he hasn't been there in terms of the run defense. Davenport, well, he's injured, but he's supposed to be there for your run defense. Tyler Lacey's a converted defensive tackle. Putting Liam there is theoretically supposed to work hold the edge, but the thing is, teams can just scheme around that and just run right past him. It's put Liam back at his usual position. Maybe have Lacey active this game. If we don't have Davenport, he probably will be. But do that, and just it's just an effort thing, and hopefully the team, the front seven will have had a right kick up the arse from Kelvin, from Sean Gian Hamilton, and from Casey Rogers, and they will be better this game, especially since they are coming up against arguably the worst out of the offensive lines we've faced in the past couple of weeks, because the Rams have got a good one. The Steelers, they were starting a weak left tackle and weak left guard in terms of draft pedigree, but at least they wanted it. With these, we've got a backup left tackle who we've got history against, a rookie left guard who's been okay but has been up and down, backup center, a right guard that has dipped since his best friend at centre's sort of gone with his concussions, and then Brian O'Neill's a good right tackle. We're just going to need to want it more, because that's what it is. It's 90% effort, 10% scheme, and maybe we blitz a bit more because we didn't really blitz Aaron Rodgers last week. Maybe we blitz a bit more and just try and get more bodies penetrating the line and get TFLs. But it's just the team's got to be there, because we know they can do it. Jack Campbell's been one of the best run defending linebackers this season. Anzalone's a good linebacker, and he's hopefully going out on a high. Derek Barnes, we've paid him, he should hopefully be there. Hell, someone that has recently come back from injury and hasn't got many snaps, and maybe should, because his whole calling card is that he's a former wrestler and he knows how to use his leverage against running backs and that to get them down and tackle. Play Malcolm Rodriguez more. I bet if I look at PFF in a second, Malcolm can't have played more than 30 snaps over the past 3 weeks.
He plays like 3 or 4 snaps a game.
Yeah, exactly. Get him in more, especially if I know he's a free agent to the end of this season. I wouldn't be sad if we signed him and just had him as the Anzalone replacement next season in terms of the starting will, and we bring in a specialised coverage backer. You need to use him. You activate him for a reason, and it can't just be the special teams. You know what he can do on defense, especially in Kelvin. You've got the infamous clip from Hard Knocks where we drafted Malcolm, and Kelvin was calling out the whole entire linebacker room, which had like Jamie Collins and that in, because Malcolm's out playing them. Play him more, because he'll fit it. Not saying he'll be the something magical fix all on the run defense, but rotating him in with Barnes, with Anzalone, and hell, maybe even Jack, just getting him a couple of reps off means that hopefully, theoretically, they'll have more energy. If you take away 10% of their snaps in a game and just have him come in, that's only 30%. He's getting 30% of snaps. That'll be 15 to 20, where he can go full effort, and the other guys, well, hopefully they'll have more energy, so they can go more full effort on their reps. Get him involved more. Hell, play Stewart as well. That's his one thing. He's a great special team. That's what we got him. In theory, that special teams ability should be useful in run defense as well. Get them in more, because rotation will help us there. Keep them fresher. They'll be able to go with more effort. And same on the defensive line. Don't just stick with Liam on the edge, DJ Reed and Roy Lopez there. Play Tyleik Williams more. Rotate them. Have they play their propositions. Just use the guys you've got, because if you just stick the same guys out there 100% of the time, I know that can work for Hutch and probably Jack in theory, but rotation keeps everyone fresher. Do it.
Yeah, it was noticeable what the Vikings did at us last time. They hit us in the intermediate. They targeted the linebackers last time, and they found a noticeable thing there. And I think our guys have got to stand up, and so we know it's good in coverage. Jack is improving in that field, but you know, we kept the explosives to a minimum against them, but they just kept hitting us in that intermediate. That, you know, and you figure with Brosma playing, that's probably where they're going to try and go at again. They're not probably going to try and take a lot of shots deep down on the field for us. It feels like the intermediate side of that's where the big battle's going to be played. You can win the run game and you can pressure enough so the shots aren't going downfield. You've got to stop Jefferson, Addison, even Naylor, these very technically polished route runners, from getting separation quick. I mean, how would you ask the secondary to play? It feels like you've kind of got to be aggressive against them a bit more here. Because against the Steelers guys, we just sat off, and it felt like completely the wrong method here. But I feel like you've got to tell the secondary guys to get in their grill. Don't let these routes develop. Don't isolate our linebackers against them, because none of our linebackers can cover Justin Jefferson. Probably not many can, but even Addison and Naylor. Naylor loves playing against us. He just has a way. I think we've got to be quite aggressive against them on the line of scrimmage here.
Yeah, play press, bracket Jefferson, and blitz, because that's the thing. If we can get to Brosma quickly, as you say, they'll take a fraction of a second, admittedly, but pressing them means that off their route initially, they have to be against that and then start running their route. That plus blitzing means hopefully Brosma won't have as much time to throw. We'll have to either fire it in there and try and defend on one of the receivers and we can pick it off, or we'll have to throw it away. We'll force negative plays that way. We can't just sit off and be like, oh, we're going against a rookie UDFA QB who hasn't played well and he has played. So what we'll do is we'll have our usual pass rush pattern. We'll rush 4, we'll drop the other 7 in coverage and just hope that we can hold up for the 3 seconds and he'll either throw it away or we'll get a coverage sack. That ain't going to work.
And that's the problem, isn't it? Gaviscon says here, goes, if we play man, we have to get pressure. We do. I feel like sometimes they're struggling to know what to do with the secondary because they don't trust the defensive line to do its job, which is to get pressure. Yeah,
it does come down to one of the fundamental things of our defensive line is set up seemingly for run defense first, then pass rush. But you look at what's happened in recent history. What was the quotes that was coming out of the defensive line after that Dallas Cowboys game where we actually got a lot of pressure on Dak Prescott? It was them saying, yeah, we were told just to go pass rush with our hair on fire. Don't worry about the run, just get to the QB. And it worked. We got multiple turnovers on the Dallas Cowboys in that game. Yes, some were lucky. The Cowboys inflicted some wounds on themselves, including my beloved Jake Ferguson, who really likes in the draft, obviously. But it worked. But it's like, well, as you said earlier with the Dan Skipper thing, we saw it worked out one time. Like, oh, that's cool. Right back to being shit, having a shit pass rush. Because yes, we get. And I know this is your big gripe, so you're the one that should be saying this, and it's funny that I'm saying it when I'm the stats guy. But yes, we do get a lot of pressure, but a lot of it is these hurries, these hits where it's just after the pass. We're not getting a lot of. They're not really turning into sacks. We don't. And what is the stat we've allowed? Some of the worst time to throws over the past couple of seasons because we are that sort of slow pass rush that you look at the sacks and most of the time they are coverage ones or ones where one person's slow pass rush means that the QB basically walks into another rusher's like arms. We need to get that quick pressure because that's what forces turnovers or at least forces negative plays where they have to throw it away to the sideline and suddenly they go from a 2nd and 7 to it's a 3rd and 7, and that can change your defensive dynamic. Though, based on last week, if we do get that, will allow them to convert and the drive will keep going. But here's hoping that doesn't happen this week. But yeah, it's just about getting that pressure and allowing the defensive line just to pin their ears back and get to Brosma, and don't worry about if it's a draw because yes, you might give up 1 or 2 third down conversions with a halfback draw, but the other 7 times they go for it in a 3rd down. You'll get a sack, you'll force a throwaway, you'll force a quick throw that's short of the sticks, and you get that turnover on downs theoretically. They have to punt it away or kick a field goal, and it's just adding them up. It just comes down to let us get some quick pressure. Play if Davenport isn't healthy, but AQ is, I know he's questionable. Al-Qadim Mohammed is fully is active for this game. Don't just give him 40% of snaps. Give him 70.
Yeah.
Because you see what happens when you give him the snaps, he produces. It wasn't until this week just gone where Hutch got his 2 sacks. Before that, AQ was our leading sacker on the defensive on our defense. Wasn't Hutch the guy we paid?
Yeah, Brian Branch had the most sacks on this team for that month period where we shot not so long about it. Just kind of tells you everything you need to know about it. But Gaviscon has the great one here. 8-man rush and 3 guys play man. That's my kind of thinking. I'd love to see an 8-man rush. I would put the fear of life into what I would do, and this will never happen, but I would like to see. I would isolate Aiden on Brian O'Neill because he's the good one. On the other side of the line against School, I would put up some kind of funky NASCAR package with AQM, Barnes, and maybe Lacey or someone like that. Go really heavy on the pass rush and get him scared. Like, what the hell's happening here? These 3 with their different skill sets. I would put some real pressure on this line because it gives up a lot of sacks and it buckles, but it's something different which they won't be looking at. And Hutch will get success against Brian O'Neill because he is just that good, because they're going to have to commit all their resources to playing the NASCAR on the other side of the line.
Yeah, it's what some people. So again, it's me promoting another podcast here. I really shouldn't do that. But the podcast that Nolan Bianchi and Richard Silver do, where they were calling for overload blitzes on the Pittsburgh Steelers left-hand side of the line last week. Because it's, as you say, not something we haven't done this. It's something we haven't done this season. It's not on tape. It will surprise them and it will work. we didn't do it, but it will work this week. You've got that weak left hand from centre to left tackle to go at. Yeah, just stick Hutch, even if it is you're playing him basically as a 4 right, and just have him over Fries and Brian O'Neill, where yes, he will get success against that, but it won't be as much as if you have him 1-on-1. But then you overload blitz to the other side. You have Aleem, Roy Lopez, AQ, and then Barnes all lined up over them.
Yeah.
And then you can you have Hutch there, and then you have Campbell at Mike.
Exactly. I was about to say that. Your linebackers, you can bring Anzo and Campbell up to the line of scrimmage and drop them back into coverage, simulate the pressure.
Exactly, stuff like that.
Yeah, or blitz Campbell through the middle when you overload the other side. You can. There's
or
a
Thomas.
lot. Yeah.
Or bring Thomas, because again, special teamer who is now going to be a starter, because you have Harper, Thomas, and Mills as your free helper safeties, because we didn't elevate Kazee from the practice squad today. Harper, you can just trust in single high. Basically, play like a Seattle 3, which is basically that drop 3 into coverage, have 8 rush, have Harper as a single high, have Reed and basically play as a high shell as that. And then, you can blitz Daniel Thomas because he's a special teamer. So, in theory, you should be able to say to him, right, okay, you know what you're doing on special teams? Hutch is going to be here. If you just blitz from your strong safety alignment to the too high shell and just go on his right-hand shoulder, because the right guard's going to be occupied with trying to deal with Hutch with Brian O'Neill, and the centre onwards got this overload blitz, you'll be able to get through, and you might not get there for 2 seconds, but you might be able to spear Rosemary into the ground and get a sack.
Yeah, and like you say, you are putting pressure on a rookie UDFA who he's going to be looking to get the ball out quick, but if you get quick pressure on him, you're going to force errors out of him. You might get burned for 1 or 2. You're just going to have to trust your secondary to do so. But at this point, what do we got to lose? Right? I mean, if anything, Kelvin should be probably looking to get a little bit more funky with 2 games left, because this is potentially the last professional snaps he's going to get until week 1 next year, and you want to see what these guys can do now and what you can potentially do with them in the future. So it kind of feels really that we've got nothing to lose by doing some of this stuff. And you talk about wanting versatile players and not, surely the best time to do it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I know it's part of giving up to the season in a way by maybe playing somebody, like doing some of these things to we'll find out for next season, but at the same time, maybe it works. Like Nick Whiteside, I know Matt's not here to really pump him up, but that's someone when he's played limited snaps, most of them obviously in the Bucks game, the Legion of Boom game, he's looked good. If Amic's not a full go, mix him in. Mm-hmm. You have nothing to lose there. Like we've got chances. Hell, Rocky Sin, I know we had a kind of rough end to their last game, but against someone that's coming as a depth player, has looked pretty good. You've got options to rotate in because Robertson's not been good. Reed's still not 100% with his hamstring injury. And at least with Whiteside and you Sin, the one thing you know is because they're fighting for contracts for next season, they're going to want to play their asses off.
Yeah, they definitely are. Death Fan Man goes, it's a brutal scheme in Detroit on defense. As a coverage to sack team now with the most injured secondary, it is a bold strategy. The healthy front 7 really hasn't produced. No, it has not. Brent, hope you're doing well. He goes, Aleem at edge is a failed experiment. He needs to be inside 100%. If I see Aleem McNeil taking a snap at edge tomorrow, you will hear it on Twitter. You will absolutely hear it, because I will go nuts. Gaviscon goes, Whiteside show promise. He did, certainly enough to potentially be kept around next year, as did Aguakan. Other game themes here, I think obviously one of the most clear ones. 4 of the last 5 games, the Detroit Lions have not put up points in the first quarter of a game. We cannot keep affording slow starts in games, because it puts us behind the chains, playing football we don't like to play, playing us out our comfort zone. We simply cannot allow that to happen here. You get behind against the Vikings, that's just basically a green light for Flores to go, screw it, we're going to blitz every damn play because they're in panic mode and they're having to play from behind.
Yep, which is, I know it's going to be predictable, but I'll still bloody do it, because why the fuck not? First snap of the game, skip in jumbo package, play action pass deep to JMO. Just fuck it. What have we got to lose? We pick it off. Still with okay, yeah, we picked it off. They'll all this. At least we'll be trying. I don't want to come out and see the first play of the game, be I don't say this and then we watched them on it fucking be the exact first play of the game, but the sort of your standard 11 personnel, Gibbs in the backfield, bloody Anthony Fuchs on the line, and it's an inside zone to Gibbs that goes for 1 yard because we don't get the push up side and then they'll collapse down onto it. We need to go 100% tendency breakers, especially on offense against them. Go deep and early. Use some of the stuff like that. I don't know what. I did mention it, but whatever happened in the third quarter last week, where we just went away from all our stuff and we just go in goes, hitches, and that against the Steelers, that needs to fuck off. We need to do aggressive stuff. I'm saying tendency breakers and saying don't do just go to that kind of. We need to hit them stuff we haven't seen at least for a while, like hit them deep. Have this use the two backfield. Two running back sets that you can then you've seen a nice matchup where you can motion Gibbs out and get him on Eric Wilson. Fine, do that. Use two of that. Use Monty in the Wildcat more, and not just in the goal line. Have him fucking line up on the 1st and 10 on our 45-yard line. Have Monty line up in the Wildcat and see what they do. Just get these looks that they have not really seen in situations they haven't seen, because suddenly they're the ones who we have to scrub with. Instead of letting the Vikings defense dictate what you're going to do, which is what we let the Rams do, which is what we let the Steelers defense do to us last week, we dictate to them, right, this is the look we're giving you. You haven't really seen it. How are you going to match up against it?
Use your weapons. Use your weapons effectively. And you're right. I've seen a lot of people in here going with the whole all I want for Christmas thing this evening. I feel like the only way we're going to get 2 back sets is if we wish for Christmas and Santa brings them for us. It feels like something we ask for all the time. But someone mentioned it earlier. We're using Gibbs as a blocker a lot. Let's use Gibbs as a route runner. Why can't we line up in a 2 back set with Monty and Gibbs, and then we motion Gibbs out into the slot, and then the Vikings are like, what are they doing with him? Like, where's he going? What we're doing? Is he isolated on a linebacker? That takes linebacker. They love to blitz their linebackers. They love to guy. If all of a sudden you're at the last minute moving Gibbs up into the slot, then you can't. These guys can't come, because what's going to happen? Quick play action pass to him when the blitz comes, a blitz beater per se. But you've got to give that impression. You've got to use it. If Gibbs has just sat there in the backfield on his own, you're not giving it. And if you get a good look, and someone does drop on Gibbs, hand it off to Monty. 4-5 yards, plays like that. Again, it feels like we're at the time of year now, what have we got to lose? We're not using Monty enough. Let's use them both together, then it's not an issue of usage for either of them. Exactly,
and I'm just letting one of my stats websites look up how... Oh, here we go, perfect. So supposedly we have used 2 back sets on 5.18% of our offensive plays this season. So out of 927 they've got charted, 48 of them have been in 2 back sets, and going down even further into that, 21 personnel, 26 plays. So that's 2 running backs, 1 tight end. 20 personnel, so 2 running backs, no tight ends, 19 plays. And then any other 2 back formation, we've used them 3%. 3 plays out of all of those. So that when that compares to the most in the league, which is the 49ers and the Dolphins, they're supposed to lead the league with that. They're in the 40s. And we've used it on 5%.
And does 2 back include like fullbacks and stuff like that? Because I feel like even 5% feels like too high. I don't feel like I've seen Monty and Gibbs together on the field for 5% of snaps.
I think it might do in terms of, let's say, if it's... Oh, God, I should know.
Well, surely just 2 back means 2 in the backfield, right? So it should include a fullback.
I think it has to be someone that has that designation of sort of like running back or halfback. So it might include some of the snaps we had where we had Zach Horton up for 1 game, which I know we get 3 practice squad elevations a week, right? And we've only used 2. We've usually used 2 this week. One's on Ricci, who, let's be honest, hasn't done too much. Okay, Gutekunst by. Why haven't we elevated one of the safeties we signed a couple of weeks ago? And why haven't we elevated Horton? Because that's the one thing we've been missing, especially last week. Like, you go back and watch last week, some of the times when, especially when Ferguson on the field, we'd have him in the backfield and then motion him to the other side, or we'd have him learn to punt inline against Highsmith and motion him away. Why are we not seeing what we've got in Horton there? Why are we not looking at what we've got with some of the other guys like I know I want to, like we've got the Davenport injury, and I know it's going to get what was saying here. Why haven't we called a Passanine? But it's just we've got all these.
Is he fully healthy? If we
he's healthy enough to be on the to sign, which means I believe he would have to have done a medical, because it's kind of like, you know, when you sign any free agent. Like we had that one.
Can we still elevate him now? Can we bring him up to the 53 now?
There's the new IPP rules. He now he's like any other practice squad player. You can bring him up to 3 times.
Yeah, I mean, can we activate him before to the game now, or did it have to have been done today? Because we're technically bringing him. Because we've already announced our elevations. We've brought Bagurican and Ricci again. It was announced, so we would have had to do it then. But actually, getting back to our point though that we were trying to say, the two back sets,
use 2 back sets. Or, I know we got a lot more play last week. Tesla, we've spent fucking third round picks on him, and seemingly when he catches the ball 50% of the time, it's for an amazing touchdown. Why not get him used in more, even if it is you use him in Sam Laporta plays? Because his touchdown he got last week, I saw that and I was instantly, people in our squad, no, it's like, that's a Sam Laporta play.
Yeah,
he's done it before Arkansas, and that's what you've been missing in this offense, is that kind of movable chess piece that Sam Laporta is. I know we want Tesla to be our future X, and using him in the slot might be taken away from that, but at least get him reps, play him in the sort of Laporta plays, because he can run block like Laporta, he's tall and fast like Laporta, he can move around like Laporta, and it just gives the Vikings something to key on. They suddenly have to go, okay, Van Ginkel, you're on him. You've taken him out of the play. And
it's what he did in college. Like, he didn't really play much X. He played that slot in college. He knows how to do that sort of stuff. Yeah. So, use his versatility. We harp on about our versatility all the time. We've got an opportunity to give him versatile reps, and we're not. I agree with you fully. And I'll go back to the 2 back stuff. Gaviscon rightly says, you take one guy out of the box. If you're going to do a guy like, you're going to motion Gibbs out, you're going to lighten the box. I want you to have a run at them. You can do so much there. In terms of other offensive bits here, obviously Aguakan has been brought back up again. Glasgow is healthy. The debate is on. I mean, for me, this is an absolute no-brainer. I do not take Kingsley Aguakan out this team. Maybe the consideration I change is putting Glasgow in at left guard if Mahogany is still not 100% yet, but I think without a shadow of a doubt, Kingsley Aguakan should be centre for the rest of this season. He had a very good game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. His blitz recognition will come in use. He pointed out a Peyton Wilson blitz on that Tesla touchdown. He did so well. Combo blocked twice on it, I think. I mean, he had a flawless first half, and this Steelers defence, I know it's not good this year. The front four's still bloody good. It's not easy to come up against Keanu Benton and guys like this to start off with, but I don't think it's a question at all. I think Aguakan should start at centre, and Glasgow maybe get a look in at guard, maybe, but if not, he's going to be gone in a couple of games. I don't think he needs to be back in.
Yeah, 100% agree. Like, the issue with Aguakan is, and perhaps the reason why he hasn't been getting much reps since we got him, other than being the UDFA, is that he's undersized for position. He's 6'3", 300 pounds roughly, which for a centre is undersized, which means, and we did see it on a couple of the run plays against the Steelers last week, he doesn't have as good of an anchor as, say, a Glasgow or Colon, who are more of your traditional centre builds, even though they're both guard flexible. So actually they're kind of those tweeners as well. They're not exactly the biggest Donnies in the world. But as you quite rightly point out, that blitz recognition is there. Like, he has played 59 pass blocking snaps supposedly this season, so that's all last week. So he only had 3 other snaps in the season so far, which is against Chicago. But on those plays, he has a 99.1% pass blocking efficiency, which basically means that he's only given up 1 hurry the entire season. You compare it to Glasgow, and yes, Glasgow's got a bigger sample size, though remarkably, despite playing in 12 more games, has only got 9 times as many pass blocking snaps as 472. He has a 97.9 pass blocking efficiency. He's given up 18 pressures, with 9 of which are hurries, 8 QB hits, and 1 sack. So you get him better pass protection from Aguakan, and yes, you might lose a tiny bit in the run game, but you can hopefully mitigate that with having Ratledge and Mahogany next to him. And if you don't want to play Mahogany, well, let's extend this out to someone who had a really good game a couple of weeks ago when we started rotating him in. why not see what you've got in Miles Frazier? Because you don't if let's say you don't you just need to give Mahogany a bit of time off. See what you got in Frazier, and honestly, I know he did. It's the only position he didn't play in college. He played left tackle, he played right tackle at FIU, and when he was at LSU, he was their backup tackle and played both guard spots. Why are we talking about moving Ratledge to centre other than that's what the team has said? When you've got Frazier, even if he turns out he's your backup, let's see what Frazier's got, because suddenly, even if he does turn into the next Kennedy Arashika, at least know you got there instead of having this lottery ticket that you rotate in every now and then.
Did you hear? Jim Nance said we played Frazier at centre in the last game.
Oh yeah, I did.
So he did play. Yeah. Don't forget that.
Get that exactly. Yeah,
that big long-haired with a big Aguacan sign on his back. That is Miles Frazier.
Yeah. Well, we're saying this. Of course we should. Well, of course Frazier's going to play more left guard, considering Mahogany's our 7th or 8th offensive guard, according to Tony Romo. This is why you watch us, me and Matt, do the commentaries, or me and Ant when we do the commentaries, because at least we know what the fuck we're talking about.
Exactly. Gavin's goes right and says, for centres, size is not all that matters. It's here.
Yeah.
Some of the best. Jason Kelsey, one of the best centres of all time. Small. He's got a brain, and Aguacan's got a brain because Aguacan's played a lot of centre, and Aguacan knows his stuff.
So in college, okay, that's pass blocking. Excuse me. I'm going back to the college stuff, and admittedly, this is for the Florida Gators.
Good lord, that bit before.
No, so this is Aguacan. So according to PFF, in college, Aguacan played nearly 2,000 snaps at centre.
Yeah, he's vastly experienced.
Honestly, and the thing is, you look at his PFF grades. Okay, admittedly, in his last season in 2023, he didn't play as many games because I think he got injured a bit, but his pass blocking grade never dipped below 67.4 when he played a full season. His run blocking wasn't fully there, but that's the one thing. He was always a good pass blocker, and trust me, I would know because I support the other team, so we played him a couple of times, and he managed to hold up well against Braden Fisk, who is now playing on that Rams defensive front, and Jared First, who's playing on that Rams defensive front, and Keir Thomas, who's with the Rams on the practice squad, but when he was in college, he was very good. And Jermaine Johnson II, who while he's at edge 2 for the Jets, is still pretty damn good. And if we could maybe sign him if he gets released because they don't like him anymore, they want Milt McDonald, I'd happily sign him up. But that's the thing. He was a beast at the Senior Bowl as well. I remember him coming out because we signed him and the other two centres whose names have completely gone off my brain, but we signed them 3 out of college as UDFAs as the battle behind Frank. And I was the least high on Aguacan out of us, but I was still like, that's the one thing he's got over the other two is he's a damn good pass protector and he knows what he's doing in terms of bits pickups. The other two were better run blockers, and yet they're not here. He is. So There's a reason for that.
Exactly. And Brent brings up the last point I want to mention about the offence. He goes, wonder why they don't try some up-tempo when our offence has been stagnant. We have been very, very critical of the tempo of this, specifically in their 2-minute drills. But like the last 10 minutes of a half drills, it feels like this year we've very rarely had opposition defences on the ropes with the tempo of it. We need to try more up-tempo stuff.
So, admittedly, this is before before Thanksgiving, but I did see a graph that basically showed that we were top 5 in the league for snaps taken with less than 5 seconds left on the play clock and less than 2 seconds left on the play clock.
So we're taking our sweet ass time on drives.
We're taking our sweet ass time on drives. Why? Okay, yes, I know we've got a bit of a inconsistency on the interior offensive line, but you've got Gibbs, Monty, Ammon, all these pieces aside from Tesla, but Tesla's a former QB and he's had a lot of time to sit and learn the playbook, and I know you can move stuff. Just call, even if it is you call basic play calls. You've got one of the most cerebral QBs in the league who has been key part of building this offensive scheme. Why can't you just even if it's Dan just gives Goff a formation for the drive and then Goff calls it on the fly?
Yeah.
We need more tempo because it wears the defenses out.
And when you're marrying it with, again, the fact, and I keep saying it, but it's relevant, 4 of the last 5 games you don't score in the first quarter, you're probably playing for behind. You're limiting your number of drives. You're limiting your number of possessions because you're taking so much damn time off the clock. Slow starts marred with slow tempo means we have less chances to score, and that is the problem we have had. So that that's another issue that it creates.
Yeah.
And
so I think Dan's whole thing with it is he's doing it because he wants to limit the amount of possessions the other team has as well. Because in theory, if you take a lot of time off the play clock and you have good, successful drives, you have 9-10 minute drives, which means the other team's in that. But it's not working, as you quite rightly point. It's not working. If we're behind, if we're having these 3 and outs that are that, and we are taking 2 minutes off, by the time we get to the fourth quarter, you're having to play that hurry up. But was it against the Rams where we literally that last drive we were hurrying and trying to touch the ball and that, and it killed us in the end?
Yeah.
And then last week, there's the whole uproar about how we played it before the 2-minute warning and basically misused that 4th unofficial timeout.
Yeah.
It all adds up in the end. So even if it is just for a couple of drives and it's not in that sort of near the end of half situations, hit them randomly during the middle of a drive. Suddenly go, okay, Goffson has got two, 3 play calls that he's got to. Everyone knows it, and the audibles at the line. Hit them with tempo because they have to get set. You can maybe catch them substituting and snap it, do the A-Rod special and snap it, but then they've got 12 men on the field and they've got 10. Make use of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know whether this is part of it or not. I guess this is a stat that is not measured. Gavin Scott mentions we all Goff seem to kill the first play a lot. So obviously when you kill the play, you've got to come up with... I don't know if that's measured as a stat. I would be intrigued, but I would tend to agree with him. It does feel like we are killing a lot of plays there now. Is that a bad thing that we are, or is it just, I don't know, is it just, it does seem to hit a point for me that we do seem to kill a lot of plays, and that seems either like bad scheming or the opposition's always figuring out what we're doing. I don't know, but
I think it's half of one and half a dozen, half of one and a half dozen of the other, where it's partly just bad scheming, like Goff isn't liking what we're coming out into and against the defense, maybe they're working out. But it also seems, again, unfortunately, it's something I don't track, and I don't think many places track. I think a lot of the times as well, Goff's killing it, and it goes into a run play, and suddenly the defense then also, not audibly audibles, but you can see him doing stuff, and it turns into a run play. They all crash into it, and it's a 1 or 2 yard gain.
Yeah, it feels like there's no. You've got to have a good backup play for that, haven't you? If you're going to kill something, you feel like you've got to. Or have a good second play that he can read to rather than kill it. He can say something and they reserve.
Because that's what's happening. I think what's happening, we're coming up with passing play. Goff's not liking the coverage, and yet instantly our kill play is always a run. Teams hear that audible and they see it. They must have seen it on tape because if it's something I'm spotting, then they must have done. That's it because it's in the kill, and 9 times out of 10 it's a run play, so they just treat it like a run and they just guess running it works. We need to almost do the opposite where Goff comes out with the run play, and if he doesn't like it, he audibles into a pass play.
Yeah.
Or if we come out with a pass play, audible into another pass play. Because if teams are picking up the 9 times out of 10, we audible into a run play when Goff doesn't like it.
Yeah.
Well, this whole thing of we've only getting 1-2 yards and we've run the ball, it's going to continue. I think it's a mixture of Goff needs to maybe have more than one ready to go. Needs to come out with more flexible stuff that isn't as predictable, and we just need to get away from that tendency. Because Flores is going to pick up on it, and I know Dennis Allen is not exactly a great head coach, but the one thing he can hang his hat on is he's a good defensive coordinator, despite what we did to him earlier this season.
Yeah.
They're going to both pick up on it, and they're both going to read on it, and that's the one thing that this Bears defense is good at, is they can they make the most of the chances you give them. It's the reason why they've nickel cornerback's been voted into the Pro Bowl, even though he's been basically Trayvon Diggs this season.
And the Vikings specialise in having athletic guys who can get at you quick, guys who can crush down on you very quick. And again, it's why we had 11 tackles for loss in the last game, because I would be willing to bet if we went back and watched that, we'd probably hear a lot of kill plays in that as well, given the scheme he runs. It feels like you've got to be a bit more tactical there. But a lot of things that we need to sort on offense. Probably not enough for one game, but at the end of the day, we still possess the firepower and the know-how to go out. We know how to beat this team. Brian Flores' defenses are easy to beat so long as you establish a vertical passing threat and you do your short stuff well and you block well. let's see some more perimeter stuff, etc. I mean, I think defensively we've been through this now, but I guess it's just, what we've got to adjust from the Pittsburgh game. We've got to negate the length of these drives as well. There's too many long drives against us. We're allowing too many third down conversions. I don't know what we can do differently against this team that's immediately going to alleviate that. We spoke about it. I think it's just the fact that the D-line has got to be better, right? The D-line's better, everything falls into place around it. Is there any other, game themes for you, coaching-wise, player-wise, that we've not already discussed that you want to throw into this mix before we do score predictions?
Don't be afraid to take the points.
I
know it's the big debate again with Dan, his coaching, but we have seen, especially in that, even if it's that first drive and it's the third quarter, Matt, you've seen that you're showing the score there. If you've got the chance to, you've got a decision between going for it on a 4th and 3 on their 35-yard line or kicking the field goal with Bates. 9 times out of 10, they know we're going to go for the 4th down.
Yeah.
Kick the field goal. Take that 3, especially if it's early in the game, they haven't scored. You're suddenly putting scoreboard pressure on them. You're putting a bit more pressure onto Brosma. Maybe he feels like he has to play a bit more hero ball when it comes to it, because he's like, oh shit, they've already scored, I've got to force the same, and you can force an early turnover. Because if you start doing that, you start to keep putting that scoreboard pressure upon them. So long as we do, the defense at least holds them fairly well, the pressure's going to start to get into Brosma because he hasn't really been there before, and it'll get into him. Like, Goff's been in this situation numerous times. He's been in that where, look what he did against the Giants earlier this season, what he did against the Steelers. Yes, on Sunday where we were behind by 2 scores. Goff's been there, done that. We can handle it. Brosma not might be able to. So if you've got unless it's like a very obvious, you'd go for it situation, like a 4th and 1, then go for it. But if it's more 50-50, know your team, know the situation, take the points.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, we have everything. We are still a very talented football team. I think the thing here, you've got to be aggressive early. Like you say, get points on the board early, apply that scoreboard pressure, and be aggressive on defense and force quarterbacks out of the mistake. Make Minneapolis quiet, because they are going to be up for this. I know it doesn't really mean much in the scheme of things, but like I say, they'll want to sweep us. They'll want to completely ruin our season. They'll want to officially end our playoff dreams. So for me, that is the key. Be aggressive, and then just be disciplined on this. Penalties, keep to a minimum. Tackle right. I know a few people have mentioned this evening the tackling issues seem to have got worse in recent weeks, especially on the D line. Yeah. I think aggression is the word of the day there for me. But when that is all said and done, obviously with what we've seen, they're the informed team. We're not. What is your prediction for this game? Because again, I think this is one we have to really put a marker down if we want to salvage anything from this season. So I might go above the 43.51 here. But what is your prediction for this? What do you reckon is going to happen?
I think it will be close going into the 4th quarter, but then the experience we have wins out in those situations, and we pull ahead, even if it's we get touchdowns where they kick field goals, or we get field goals where they go 3 and out. So again, I'm going for the over, but I think it's going to be closer than the spread. So I'm going 27-21 to us.
And I know
we get
Grandaz.
2 field goals.
And I know Grandaz likes this bit, so I'll do it for him. But like, offensively and defensively, who's the one player on both units who needs to show out in this for us, really, to maximise our chances? Who are the really important guys here?
Offensively, and it's going to be a bit of a rogue shout, I think. Rutledge. We need that interior offensive line to help against the blitz. Okay, we're either starting not 100% Glasgow or Agurkan in his second start. Left guard, it's either a banged up Mahogany or Frazier, or potentially Courier, who's out, he scratched last week. But Rutledge is that one guy on the interior that currently, touch wood, does not have his job threatened. We need him to stand up, because if he can be a good run blocker and be good enough in the pass game where he's not being a liability, It's something we can scheme around. You can keep Goff upright, and suddenly, hopefully, everything else will kick into place. So it's a bit of a rogue shout. People probably expect me to say JMO or Gibbs or Goff, one of the obvious ones. Ratledge, under the radar, I think, and I'll definitely keep an eye on him tomorrow while I watch the game. And then on defense, Barnes.
Ah, shit.
Yo, you're gonna say Barnes? Oh, I stole your one. I'm sorry. I was still talking
I feel like I've done that so many times, but I feel like he's been very disappointing this year, which is why this defense has not been what it should be. Like, this is what they employ against us. Your Ivan Pace type. The quick blitzing nifty guy who can get through and make plays in the backfield. We've just not had the best version of Derek Barnes this year, and that Sam position is what part of what we live or die on.
Exactly. Like he's never going to be Antony Van Ginkel, but that's the role he's supposed to be. Where Van Ginkel's probably the better coverage player and the better pass rusher because he's done it more in the league. But in terms of run defense, that should be Barnes' calling card right now. That's why he played most of his time with us so far as that off-ball linebacker. And yes, he's done the whole. He was an edge rusher at Purdue thing, so he should be better at the edge. And he has got a couple of picks on people. But it is that because if he can hold the edge on that big end, and stop Aaron Jones running that way, if he can get a bit of pressure against School or blitzing from an off-ball position against that left side of the line, and if he can just even if it's just limiting Yak when they do target Aaron Jones or one of the tight ends in coverage, if he can just be average, then it will definitely help because this season I know he's coming off the injury, but we've also given him a big load of money to be that fundamental part of the defense because I know people point to Anzalone, Branch, and that as the reasons they can play load of the base defense. It's all supposed to be Barnes because he's supposed to be that movable chess piece, and it just hasn't been. So we need him to be that this week.
We do indeed. Sorry, I kept meaning to shout out. Lisa De Lorenzo is in the building. Hope you're well, Lisa. I know you've not been well recently, but hopefully you are getting better in time for Christmas. I hope you have a lovely Christmas as well. For me, again, I think this has to be a big win, and I would like this to be a big win. I think there's going to be a lot of pent-up frustration in this team, and hopefully they've learnt their lesson. I'm going to say it's a 41-20 win to us. I think we're still going to give up some, but I want... More than anything, they say when their backs are against the wall, that's when they play their best football, and their backs are pressed firmly against the wall. But I love Max Brosma. We all know I have a Golden Gophers obsession on the college pod, but he is not a quarterback I'm fearing, who I think should be giving my team that should be going after a Super Bowl trouble. I think you can get at him. I think you can. The offensive line is weak enough that you're going to be able to cause issues against it. I think you get up early, and the Vikings kind of realise, we're going to take draft position here in the 4th place schedule next year. In terms of the key players, you're right, it could be anybody. I just think JMO's ability to stretch their defense and give us enough room to work with is the one that works here. I know Amon Ra's the Vikings killer, but he's the chain mover and back. But JMO's the one who really causes issues, and I don't trust any. They do not possess a secondary player who can cover JMO downfield at all. So I will put JMO as my guy on there. Defensively, I mean, it's tough. I mean, I want this to be a Liam's game where we see him finally come back to the fore because he's clearly not healthy. I don't blame him in the slightest. He's coming back off an ACL halfway through a season. No practice, no nothing. He's getting played 60 snaps a game and he's getting played on defensive end, which is just stupid. But against a backup centre, against a dicky interior line, and there is some chatter about him, I think he will respond this week. So Liam is going to be my one on there I have, but I think we're going to absolutely whip them. Lisa goes, Demo needs to be used more yet. We discussed that. 2 back sets, 100% we need to use that there. Gaviscon goes, I can't unsee the Jameis Winston missed tackle by Barnes. Yeah, he's there's some there. So he goes, I'm shopping for linebackers in the draft. Arvell Reese, good luck shopping for Arvell Reese. Arvell Reese is a potential number 1 overall pick. Good luck trying to get up to where he's going to get drafted. You're going to have to give up about 4 first-rounders to do that, and I don't think any of us want to do that. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, 100%.
I want this to be a Liam's game where we see him finally come back to the fore because I think we're going to absolutely whip them. Lisa goes,
you'll pronounce me for pronouncing the surname wrong, or I'm just thinking the completely wrong player. Kyle Louis, the
Louis.
pit linebacker.
Yeah.
Pit linebacker. Watch him. He is what we want to replace Anzo.
Yeah.
I'm going to say.
Yeah. It's a good linebacker class in the draft this year. Grandizer with the Simpsons meme. Ant, my team has a spot waiting for you on the couch. Come over. Not on your Nelly, Grandizer, as we say over here. We are not ready to join the non-playoff team's couch yet. You can wait one more week for us, but it ain't this week. Yeah, so that is just about everything. I think it feels like we've covered just about everything there.
We forgot one thing, and I've got my ones ready. We got challenged earlier with the ghosts of Christmas, past, present, and future.
Oh, we did, yeah. So
I've got mine ready.
It was well, I gave that question to you. I have not done one, but yes, we were told that maybe the Lions coordinators would have the ghosts of Christmas, past, present, and future visit them during the night to scare them into being better, like Ebenezer Scrooge in A Muppet's Christmas Carol. So yeah, we did this as fun. Go on, Ash. Who would be the 3 ghosts that you would have scaring Kelvin Shepherd?
I've got 6. I've got 1 for the offensive, 1 for the defense.
Well, go for it. This is what we do.
So past, I have gone for past Lions coaches who I think will have some good impact. So on offense, Buddy Parker, who obviously was very revolutionary in the way we did that people did offenses in the league, and former Lions coach, came up with the 2-point offensive and that. So speaking on tempo, and on a defense, that would also maybe want him to come and play a bit as well. Joe Schmidt, what he did with the fire blitzing and that, and just having a hard ass fucking defense, to have him. Present, I've gone for present coordinators who I think will give some spice. So on offense, Greg Roman, the current Chargers offensive coordinator, and I totally did not pick them just because you look at the Minnesota Vikings games this season and it's the Chargers put the most points up against them, but also because what Greg Roman does in the run game. Look what he's done with the Chargers, look what he did with the Ravens before that, look what he did with Harbaugh in San Francisco when they reached the Super Bowl. He'll be able to scheme up a good run game for us. And on defense, I've gone for a fellow Brit, the former Cowboys defensive line coach, who is now the defensive coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks, in Aiden Durday. Also slightly chosen because they gave up the least points to Minnesota this season with a big fat stinking donut of a 0 given up, but also because that blitz scheme he has in Seattle and the way that they use their front 7, something I want from us. And then the future, I've looked to current positional coaches who I think could be future coordinators who I think would have a good impact for us. So on offense, I've gone for Nate Nealhouse, who is the current Rams passing game coordinator, but before that was at Iowa State and helped coach Xavier Hutchinson and the like there. So having him and bringing him some of those concepts and the Iowa Cyclone way of offense be quite nice. And on defense, I've gone for Dino Vasso, who's currently the Texans secondary coach. And then before that, he was the secondary coach for the Eagles when they had some of their best secondary performances. So just having him there to mentor the secondary right now, which is a bit battered and bruised. But you look at what that Texans secondary is doing right now with Stingley and Lassiter and Jalen Petra. I think he'll be able to get some good play out of Amik, out of DJ, and out of the safety room that's basically one injury away from calling me up right now.
There you go. So, an in-depth look there at some of the ghosts of Christmas past, present and future for the Lions coordinators there. And we will see that there. We'll finish it off with one question from... In fact, no, if you've got any questions you want to quickly get them in, but there's one Grandizer's put in here because we didn't really do any news. We just, it's quite late over here. It is already Christmas here. We are celebrating Christmas. Yeah. But Grandizer goes, question, did you cover Lions players who made the Pro Bowl this season? Didn't that list come out this week? It did. We didn't do news, but the Lions got 5 Pro Bowlers this time. Linebacker Jack Campbell, running back Jahmyr Gibbs, defensive end Aiden Hutchinson, offensive tackle Penei Sewell, wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown. If you were told the Lions got 5 Pro Bowlers and you had to blind guess the list, probably would be the ones you would have picked. For Jack Campbell, he is the first Lions linebacker to be selected to a Pro Bowl since the year 2000 when Stephen Boyd got the honour. Jahmyr Gibbs, this is his third one in a row. Only Barry Sanders and Billy Sims have ever done that at running back for the Lions before. Hutch, this is his second Pro Bowl, and for Sewell and Amon-Ra, this is their fourth apiece. They're bona fide givens at this point. I mean, maybe not as... I don't know if... Probably many last year, but our stars still get into the Pro Bowl. Our fans still love them, even though the authenticity of the Pro Bowl, who got selected having played 6 games, it was...
Joe
Christ. Yeah, Joe Alt got into the Pro Bowls. He's only played 6 games this year, but hey-ho, these 5, Ash...
Well, no, you want to talk about your authenticity of the Pro Bowl, there's one player you go to. Despite not being at all great this season, he was arguably, by his standards, being verifiably shit. Just because he is dating the world's biggest pop star, Travis Kelce once again led the popular vote by about 200,000 votes.
Yes, and he's been shite this year. Anthony Ferkser has been better than him.
No,
maybe
exactly.
Not, but...
he's had more drops this season than Taylor's had album drops.
Yeah, that is true. Grandazza goes, which Lions player should have made the Pro Bowl this year but got left out?
Goff over Dak. Simple. Like the others, you look and I'm like, okay, Kirby I can see being all turns. He's got injury. Same with Kirby. Same with Branch. J-Mo arguably should be a dead, but you look at the other guys that's made it in our division, our side of things. JSN deserves it. Puka Nakua deserves it, and the other one, CD Lamb. Actually, it was George Pickens. Maybe I have a bit of a quabble with Pickens over J-Mo, but the one that gets me is Dak over Jared, just because Jared's seen as a scheme merchant and that. But the same could be said of Dak, and Dak has arguably had worse games than Goff this season.
Marcus Davenport should have made it. Joke, lols.
Actually, no.
He made the all-injury Pro Bowls.
I forgot the obvious one.
What?
Hogan Hatton. I forgot.
And on that note, Matt has probably shut off if he was ever listening to us there. This may be too complicated a one to finish the show on, but we're here for the people. DC Smithers asks, he goes, do you think Dan Campbell is too wedded to the Peyton Purcell scheme? Maybe we can take an in-depth look at that another time, but just off the top of your head, do you think he's still wedded to... I guess that was when we were talking about tempo and shit like that, because that's how Peyton likes to run his offences. Not really in Denver, but hey-ho. But do you think he is? Do you think he needs to be him again, and that he's maybe too wedded to his predecessors and what they did and his influencers did?
I don't think so. And again, it's picking up a point of a podcast I've had. I think he just needs to be better at least picking the offensive coordinators he can trust just to do the stuff, because you look at his track record. Anthony Lynn, if he had only really done it as an interim basis at one place, was often as a either position coach or head coach otherwise, lost his job by week 8 basically. Ben Johnson, great, internal hire, all that, good. Morton lost his job by week 8. I think he just needs to find someone that he will tell, okay, these are the concepts I want to use, but then we'll just leave the fuck alone, because that's been our big thing this season. Suddenly he's taken on play calling duties on top of everything else, and time management's gone down the shitter. Somebody else is just spreading himself too thin. He just needs to find someone who will just run the offense and can just be pretty much left alone, because he's just taking too much on his plate right now, and that's why we're seeing detractions from other places. I know people will say, well, he's offensive coach, he has something to do with defensive stuff, but because he's so focused on the offense, he's lost that touch with the defense, and that's one of the big things that really helped us in previous seasons. Is he wedded in when he needed to, and he came and helped the defense with his sort of personality, course of personality, and his ideas, and that's why we had the turnarounds we did halfway through some of the seasons where we fired Aubrey Pleasant and Dan took a bit more of a hands-on approach to the defense and things picked up. So I think it's more, he can have the concepts he wants, he just needs an offensive coordinator who he can trust to, and will just leave to run the offense, and he'll still be in the game plan meetings and that, but the offense coordinator is the one who's calling the plays, who's doing all this stuff, and Dan can just be the CEO type, because it's worked for other coaches. Again, here's me ticking off the FSU bingo card late into the pod, but that's one of the reasons that early in the season FSU were doing so well, is because suddenly Norvell had an offensive coordinator and Gus was on who we could just, right, okay, you can just run the offense. That's what we need. We just need someone that can be that CEO type, and I know he's a great offensive mind. We can weigh in that way, but just leave your offensive coordinator to call the plays. You focus on getting your guys up, keeping an eye on them, doing your coaching stuff, because it will help everyone else in the long run.
It will do indeed. Thank you, Lisa De Lorenzo, for making my day. She goes, Merry Christmas, Brent. Go Navy, beat Army. Hear, hear. Go Navy, beat Army. The train is growing. We will get Brent onto that side one day. Grandadza goes, Ant, you didn't do your live stream cough today. You got one for... Because I'm healthy. You should be glad I've not done my live stream cough today. I am healthy. So, there you go. Gaviscon goes, HC for Indiana makes more money than Dan as head coach of the Lions. Yet college head coaches make a lot of money, but Kurt Signetti deserves it. He's a 2-time George Munger winner, so he's got that. Lisa goes, I'm ready for draft info, Anthony. It's here. I'm writing it.
Hell yeah.
It's coming in draft guide form. It will be there. So yeah, that is that. Grandadza goes, can Ash repeat the linebacker resign in the draft to compliment Jack Campbell? That's Kyle Louis. Right.
Yeah, Kyle Louis, the Pittsburgh one, yeah.
Kyle Louis from Pittsburgh.
I don't know much right now, but the one thing the one conference you know a lot about is the ACSC.
I do.
And he's...
I love him.
Yeah, exactly. exactly. And exactly. And you picked out Malcolm a couple of years ago, so
yeah,
that's what I'm saying. I trust you, but I'm good at knowing my safeties. And my tight ends, it seems. Everything else I leave to you guys. Like, I'm good at safeties, I'm good at tight ends for some reason.
We all have our things. Right, yeah. We are going to leave it at that today because it's 1:10 in the morning here and we need to get to bed before Santa comes. Otherwise, we're going to get no presents. So we don't want that to happen. So massive thank you to everyone who has joined us this evening. Gaviscon, appreciate all the questions. Lisa, Grandizer, Brent, everyone who's with DC Smithers as well. He quickly goes Jake Slaughter or Parker Brailsford. Jake Slaughter, and I don't have to think about that for a second.
Same.
Yes, I don't have to think about that for a second. Jake would be a monster here, and he can play pal with Kingsley Guick, and we can have 2 Gator centres on the draft on the roster next year.
And the good news is, according to some draft nicks, he's still going to be on the board midway through day 3, so we won't even have to spend a high pick on him.
Exactly. But yeah, in terms of next shows, depending on Matthew's health and availability tomorrow, I don't know whether he is doing a stream or not. We may do, but it is Christmas, so we may not either. So if we don't see you, we will see you Friday or Saturday to review the game. The college pod will be later in the week. Everything's been so crowded into this thing here, so just keep an eye out for updates, and me and Ryan will be back with that, talking the CFB playoffs. We may do, Lisa. You'll have to. I've got to work tomorrow, and then it depends. We'll see. So yeah, but you'll know that. And yeah, apart from that, I think we're all done. So just remains me to thank Ash. Appreciate you. Have a lovely Christmas. Everybody else, have a lovely Christmas. Have a great time with your family, your friends, and we shall see you on the flip side. And hopefully another win on the books, and the Lions season stays alive for one more week. And with that being said, one pride, and we are out of here.